We are coming to you from USA Littlefield in the great city of Chicago, Illinois, where tonight WGN Sports on My 50 presents White Sox baseball. This was Jose Abreu, Javi Garcia, Melky Cabrera and the Sox as they get set to butt heads with Evan Longoria and the Tampa Bay Rays. Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm Ken Harrelson with Steve Stone as we get set to bring you the first of this three-game set and the fourth of the six-game homestand. As you know, the first three were against the Yankees. They won Game 1, we won Game 2, and then they took the rubber match yesterday. But we come in 3 games under 500. Tampa Bay is 2 games under, but we have a chance to hopefully make a move for the wild card.
In the next 16 games, 13 of the games are played against teams that we're going to compete with for this wild card. And as you see, that's where the Sox stand at this point. They picked up a half game because Minnesota lost earlier, but they lost to Toronto, and Toronto looks like they're heating it up with some very good deadline moves. However, we got a couple of hitters that are going to help us along the way, and they're co-American League Players of the Week. Jose Abreu had a magnificent week, and Adam Eaton also might have had a better week. He was hitting everything in sight, scoring runs. You take a look at what they did. Adam hit .517. He scored 10. Drove in 4 and 3 doubles. Jose hit .400, hit 3 home runs, drove in 10, and scored 7 runs. So with both of these guys, you would think the offense is starting to heat it up. Factor in a hot Melky, and the Sox look offensively like they're going to be pretty good.
Well, it's a good pitching matchup tonight. Nathan Carnes for them, and we have one of the best pitchers in the game going for us.
There is no doubt that Nathan Carnes is a good one, and he showed us that in Tampa Bay. Now, he's 2-0 in his last 2 starts, throwing the ball exceptionally well. His curveball is as good as there is in the league. Now, in Tampa Bay, he went 6 against us, struck out 8. Jose Quintana might be the best 6-9 pitcher in baseball. He's also 2-0 in his last 2 starts. He completely handcuffed both the Indians and the Red Sox. And so these 2 guys going head-to-head, that's what they did the last 2 times out. As you can see, Carnes and Jose gave up nothing. Should be an interesting matchup tonight as these Tampa Bay Rays don't have a lot of offense. They do have pretty good pitching and some steady, if not spectacular, defense.
All right, first of 3 against these Rays. So sit back, relax, and strap it down. White Sox baseball coming your way.
Few minutes before tonight's game between the Rays and the White Sox, and earlier today the White Sox called up Trace Thompson from AAA Charlotte. Trace comes from a family of NBA players. His father and two brothers both play professional basketball, but he feels confident he can do well playing baseball.
Everyone knew what I was getting into, and especially me. My senior year had a lot of scouts come out and tell me the process and stuff, and especially me not playing as much baseball, with other sports and stuff. But they couldn't be more happy for me. I mean, I don't like to talk about myself a whole lot, but I work really hard in the off season, and it's just rewarding, and they know how hard this game is. You could have 4 perfect at bats and go 0 for 4. So, it's just kind of rewarding and humbling.
We had him in spring training the last few years, and athletic kid, smart baseball player, and with Shucky going down, we kept Scotty an extra day, and that seemed to work out yesterday that we needed him, but we need that extra outfielder, and Trace was playing the best at that time.
Trace is not in the starting lineup tonight, but Robin Ventura hopes to get him in the lineup later in this series. Stay tuned. We'll be back with tonight's lineup and first pitch after these messages. Your home for the most live sports. Let's take a look at how Kevin Cash is going to line up his Rays tonight. Brandon Guyer leading it off. Then it's a good hitting Joey Butler in the 2 spot. Evan Longoria, Logan Forsythe, as Drupal Cabrera, who's been red hot over the last 6. Richie Schaefer, Mikey Matuk, along with Kevin Kiermaier and Kurt Casale rounding it out. The defense and how they'll line up. Then Jose Quintana, left to right, Melky Cabrera, Adam Eaton, and Avisail Garcia in the outfield, with Tyler Saladino, Alexi Ramirez, Carlos Sanchez, and Adam LaRoche in the infield. Tyler Flowers behind the plate, and Jose Quintana on the hill. The record doesn't look like much, but he's been a terrific pitcher this year. 6-9, ERA about 3.5 on for his 22nd start. He's only walked 28 while fanning 116 in 135 1/3. The umpires for the game tonight: David Arackley behind the plate, Hunter Wendelstedt at first, Marvin Hudson at second, and Bob Davidson is at third. So they've thrown the ball around the infield. It's becoming a beautiful night, right around 80 degrees, a few clouds in the sky, but other than that, ideal baseball weather, and it's time to turn it over to my play-by-play partner, Ken Harrelson.
Hi, Steve. Thank you. And once again, good evening, everyone, and welcome to White Sox baseball right here with WGN Sports on My 50. Brandon Guyer gets set to lead it off against our 26-year-old southpaw.
You got to watch the bunt when Guyer is up. He had 7 bunt hits last year.
And the first pitch of the ball game. Taken for a strike. Tampa Bay comes in hitting at .240 as a club with a 3.58 ERA. We played them 3 times down in St. Pete, and they won all 3. That was in a streak where we were playing just terrible baseball. As a matter of fact, that was a series there that we could have been 3-0 instead of 0-3.
I thought we played them pretty much heads up, and the pitching was pretty decent. We ran into some good pitching on their part.
Yeah, we ran into a lot of errors on our part.
We did, certainly.
A lot of bad plays. There's a strike, and the count evens at 2. And here at the ballpark, 330 down the left field line, 335 down the right field line, 375 in the gaps, and 400 straightaway center.
IQ, put him away.
Close. Full count. Got him on the short hop. One down.
That time Jose broke Geyer's bat. That fastball was down pretty much over the middle of the plate, but he didn't get much into that swing.
So here's Joy Butler. Butler hitting at 279, 6 homers, 22 driven in.
Butler had a good series against us in Tampa Bay. He can swing the bat.
Well, in the first game, he got 3 hits, drove in 2. Second game, he got 2 for 4. And then he was 0 for 3 in the third game. Watch out. Right back through the middle hard.
So Butler continues to do what he did in Tampa, which is hit everything right on the button. This one hits off the top of the mound, skips into center field, and brings up a red-hot Evan Longoria.
Longoria, 271, 11 homers, 45 knocked in. Takes first pitch strike.
He was getting a lot of base hits, but they were the opposite way. And then a couple of articles that stated that he wasn't a superstar and that he's not pulling the ball very much. And the last 9, he's trying to put an end to that kind of talk because he is starting to turn on it.
Well, he certainly is a star. There's no question about that.
Well, defensively, he's arguably the best they have down there. And usually he's going to lead the team in just about every offensive department. Over the last 9, he's hitting in the high 300s. He finds himself second behind Logan Forsythe in home runs in this lineup.
Curveball strike, and the count 1-2. James Loney gave him a little protection, but for the most part in his career in St. Pete, he hadn't had a whole bunch of protection.
No, that's really been one of the big factors because he started to swing at a lot of pitches low and out of the zone. Because he is one of the team leaders, if not the team leader, he was trying to carry everything on his back. And when you expand that zone, you're not going to do real well.
Outfield straight up. First of 3 against these Rays. Then an off day on Thursday. And then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday against the Kansas City Royals down there. Full count.
Butler's got pretty good wheels, but the guy they call the best pure hitter on this team, Logan Forsythe, in the on-deck circle.
And the payoff pitch as he took off, and that's going to be a souvenir behind their dugout. There's a bullet. Saw enough pitches, so more pitches you see, the more dangerous you become. 1 out, 2 on. And here comes Forsythe.
That's true to form. In the last 10 games, Longoria is starting to turn on it, and he crushes this ball. A sinking line drive to left. Unfortunately, Bell didn't get a great jump. He didn't want to get picked off, and he just planted at second base instead of third.
Forsythe hitting at .278, 12 homers, one more than Longoria. 45 knocked in, the same as Evan. And he has faced Quintana 3 times, has 2 hits. One of them stayed in the park, and he knocked in 3 runs.
Nice stop by Tyler. In spring training, they didn't want Forsythe to play every day. They wanted Franklin at shortstop, and Forsythe was going to be a platoon player. But as it's turned out, he has played every day, and he's done it exceptionally well.
Long set. And there's a strike to even the count at 1.
Few Tampa Bay fans in the house. Forsythe has grounded into 8 double plays, which is not a high total in 360 at bats.
And that's past LaRoche for the double, and the ball gets away, but backed up nicely by Saladino, and it's 1-0 Tampa Bay.
RBI number 46 as he squibs this ball just down the line. Adam was playing off the line. You don't figure this particular pitch and the inside out swing would take it by you on the left side, but that's exactly what happened as Adam was well off the line. This one inside the line, and then he beats the play into second.
That's a Kansas City special right there.
Just make some contact and hope something good happens.
Swinging to left, looking to center, and hitting to right.
No defense against that.
No. Nope. So here's Asdrubal. Hitting at .234, 6 homers, 25 knocked in.
Almost all of Cabrera's power is from the left side, but he's a few points better hitter as a right-hand hitter. Infield in, trying to cut off that second run.
Going to the count.
Six-game hitting streak, and Asdrubal's hitting .450. So he's starting to heat it up at the right time for the Rays, who are also in that wild card battle.
Just got a piece of it. And while we have a moment, we'll sound a big White Sox hello and a lot of love to Stacia Peichel. Stacia, 99 years young yesterday. Happy birthday, Stacia. Big Sox fan. And the 0-2 pitch.
A good time for a face-high fastball. Jose has really used that to great effect against some right-handers. I think they can do something with it, only to come up empty, as Drubel has just one sacrifice fly this year.
Good pitch there, hit him on the fist, fights it off.
Pizza and a souvenir. Good combination.
One in, one out, 2 on. And the 0-2 pitch.
Longoria had a 7-pitch at bat, and this will be at the minimum a 7-pitch at bat to Cabrera.
Nice block. So the count 1-2.
It's going to be a lot of pitches this inning, one way or the other. He's about ready to deliver his 26th.
He gone. 2 down.
He got him on the high fastball. Gets a lot of mileage out of this, and Cabrera looking for some contact. Comes up empty.
Right underneath his hands. Always a nice place to be. So here is Richie Schaefer.
He's got some power. 23 home runs between double and triple A. He does, however, have a fairly long stroke.
His first major league at bat. That ball hit him. So hit by pitch will load him up. So that'll bring up Mikey Matuk. M-A-H-T-O-O-K. Mikey Matuk.
Don Cooper comes out now. He wants to settle down. Jose, Tyler Flowers is out on the mound.
As a rule, the quicker he works, the better he pitches.
Yeah, usually, especially early, if he gets runners on, he really slows it down, and that's not good for rhythm or anything else. So Don Cooper's had his say.
And he'll just raise it to the bag. He beats him there, and that'll retire the side. So he pitches out a further damage, but they do put one on the board after half inning of play. So Rays one in the good guys coming to bat.
Up and Tyler Saladino, Jose Abreu, also a co-American League Player of the Week. Melky Cabrera, Alexi Ramirez, Adam LaRoche, Avisail Garcia, Carlos Sanchez, and Tyler Flowers rounded out. The defense and out in the lineup behind Nathan Carnes. It's Geyer, Kiermaier, and Matuk in the outfield with Longoria, Cabrera, Forsythe, and Schaefer in the infield. Kurt Casale behind the plate and Nathan Carnes on the hill. Carnes 6-5, his ERA a very good 3.37 on for his 21st start. He has yet to complete a game, but opponents hitting just 231, which is a more than respectable total.
And before we show you our picks to click, you at home select yours, as here's Adam Eaton hitting at 271. Takes first pitch strike from the 6'3", 225-pound right-hander out of Arlington, Texas, Nathan Carnes.
What you have to hope with Carnes is he doesn't get that curveball over early, because it's excellent, and when he does get it over, he's doubly tough.
That fastball at 95. 95 with an outstanding curveball. It's plenty good stuff.
It's very good.
Everybody got your hands.
Sox come in hitting at 250 as a team with a 3.99 ERA. Sox 25-24 at home. Rays 25-24 on the road.
Carnes came over from Washington in exchange for 3 players: Jose Lobaton, Felipe Rivera, and Drew Vedelson. That was last year in February.
Yes, he did. So 1 out.
That curveball gets him, and it's a spike curve, and then he takes his index finger and doesn't extend it. See the unusual spin on it. He gets a tremendous amount of rotation, and he fooled Adam.
Here's Saladino. Tyler, 244, a couple of homers, 7 knocked in. Takes that first ball, fastball strike. Close. And the count 2-1. Well, as a hitter, when you go face a guy with a curveball like this, he's got 12 wild pitches. And when you see a guy with a real good curveball, he's going to have some wild pitches.
It doesn't matter who's catching because he's going to bury a lot of curveballs in the dirt.
He's going to bury a lot of catchers, too. That's how to play right side. But when you face a guy like this as a hitter, you've got to concede the curveball. If he gets it over, grab some bench. But what you've got to do if you're going to concede the curveball is you've got to cover that fastball.
If he can get you even or ahead of you with fastballs, you pretty much figure if you're a right-hander that the curveball's coming. There you see what he did against our Sox. Got a no decision, but 8 strikeouts in 6 innings.
There he jammed himself on that hook. So with 2 out, let's check out our picks to click. Jim Angio, our director and crew, with Alexis. Steve's going with Melky. And J.J. Shearer and all the great folks that Ditka's and I. We're going to go with Adam Eaton. So here is Jose. On a 13-game hitting streak. Close pitch, did not get it in the count. 1-1.
There's a real good hook. It's at least that one was very short, sharp breaking. There you see what Jose has done during his 13-game hitting streak. And he's starting to hit the ball out of the ballpark with regularity.
Lays off that one at 94. And a full count. Well, there's a lot of the Cardinal rules 40 or 50 years ago. A lot of those are gone. But there's still some around and hitting. For an example, the better the pitcher, the more of the plate you got to concede. As there is ball 4.
That's the first walk to a right-hand hitter in his last 50 opportunities against the righties. Zach Greinke has the longest active streak at 79, so Carnes doesn't walk righties too often, but he missed twice to Abreu.
And here's Cabrera. 287, 7 homers, 53 driven in. You try to cover the whole plate on a good pitcher, and you're probably going to go for 4. Some guys just will not concede anything to a pitcher. Partly because of ego, partly because of the way they were taught. That ball into right field. And look at the play. Nice catch right there by Matuk. Robbing Melky of a hit. And it's 1-0 Tampa Bay. Kevin Kiermaier, who impressed everybody down in that series at St. Pete. 1 pitch, 1 out.
On our Xfinity Speed replay, we'll take a look at the ending of the Sox half of the first inning, and it's Mikey Matuk who came on and made a terrific catch. Gets a good break, robbing Melky of a base hit and ending the inning. Speed replay is brought to you by Xfinity, your home for the most live sports.
Kurt Casale.
Have to be careful with fastballs because that's really what's led him to the 7 home runs. He has a hard time with changeups and off-speed breaking balls.
Yanks that one. He gone. 2 down.
Good location that time. Tyler Flowers set up inside. Put the glove up. Jose got it in the perfect spot. And he caught Casale looking.
So here's Brandon Guyer, the leadoff hitter, left fielder. One game this afternoon, Toronto and David Price making his Blue Jay debut. Was pretty good. They beat Minnesota 5-1. Price now 10-4 with a 2.45 ERA. And Josh Donaldson, after that bit of a war of words yesterday with Kansas City, Josh came right back, cranked out his 27th off Irving Santana. What a player he is. There's a nice snap. And a nice 1-2-3 inning after an inning and a half, still 1-0.
The Sox still found time to brighten up the day for some patients at the Ann and Robert Lurie Children's Hospital in Chicago. Adam Eaton, Chris Sale, and Alexi Ramirez put some smiles on the faces of some very deserving children this morning. Crafts, painting, playing games were some of the activities that the Sox enjoyed with their new friends. You can learn more about this visit and many other activities sponsored by Chicago White Sox Charities by visiting www.whitesox.com/charities.
And here is Alexei taking first ball, fastball strike right there. Something that you don't want to do against this guy. Sounded like a broken bat. 1 out.
That's really the first time I've seen a team radically shift on Alexei. But his tendencies recently has been to pull the ball. Normally they play him pretty much straight up. But not Tampa Bay under Kevin Cash.
We're seeing a lot of defenses today. Defenses that are pretty radical on certain hitters.
Yeah, there's a lot of teams that shift just about each and every hitter and want to take everything away on the pull side and give them the opposite way.
Here's Adam. Takes that curveball strike. Adam at 218, 9 homers, 36 knocked in. He has faced Carnes 3 times and he drew the column.
Carnes' changeup is really a work in progress. It's probably his 3rd best pitch. Behind 2 different kinds of fastballs and that really impressive curve. And there was a change and he missed the zone with it.
In that 5-1 Toronto win against Minnesota, the only Twin run coming from Torrey Hunter, 17th homer off Price. 3-1. He just keeps on going like the Energizer Bunny. And there is ball 4. So the second walk issued by Nathan Carnes. Torrey has 17 homers and 56 RBIs.
Well, he said before the season started and reiterated it last time we played Minnesota that as long as he feels good, he's never putting any time limits on how long he's going to play. He said, look, I'm in good shape, but if I can play the way I want to play, I'll come back. If I can't, then I won't come back. And he's playing pretty much the way he wants to play right now.
Here's Avi. Got to get Avi going. Gets that pitch low. Avi 2 for 6 off Carnes. And 2 hits, both of them left the park.
Carnes' fastball is fairly straight. That's why he's given up 12 home runs this year.
He didn't give him up on that pitch.
No, that one you're probably not going to take out of the ballpark. Good curveball of the 12-6 variety. I'd like to pass along best wishes on their 50th wedding anniversary to Babe and Cheney Whittingham. They're at the ballpark tonight. They wanted to celebrate their 50th at U.S. Cellular Field, watching their beloved Sox. That's from their son, Richard Whittingham.
Two out.
2 walks and now 2 strikeouts. And right-handers on that pitch have to really hope that they make a mistake with the fastball, because Carnes consistently keeps that one down.
Here's Carlos at 224, a couple of homers, 14 knocked in. Attaboy. Get off that one. 2-0 the count. Tyler Flowers on deck.
Kiermaier in center field, one of the best defenders around. He gets good jumps, and he's got very good speed alley to alley.
That's in the left. And that will retire the side. Nothing across, no hits. One walk, one left, and it's still 1-0 Tampa Bay. Back in the first inning. Joy swung the bat extremely well against us down in St. Pete. And he takes first pitch strike. That's in the center field. We got a man there.
The White Sox will host Faith Day on Sunday, August 30th. Chicago's own Vertical Church Band will play a pregame acoustic set. Stick around after the game as Adam LaRoche and other players discuss their faith. To purchase specially priced tickets, visit whitesox.com/faith.
Here's Longoria. Softly into the pitch. Love to watch this guy hit. Ripped a single in the left field in the first inning. That front leg, nothing's very, very soft into it. Nothing harsh, nothing quick.
He's out of Long Beach State, which has a real good program.
As a chopper two hopper. Two down. I always thought that if Evan played on a team that had a solid offensive lineup, he's 30 home runs and 100 RBIs every year.
If he just had one banger behind him,
yeah,
then he's going to get much better pitches, but he really doesn't. I mean, Forsythe is a good hitter, but he can't
he's not going to
do the damage now.
And the only guy that could, when he's swinging the bat and healthy, is Loney. Loney is a good, solid line drive hitter. Forsythe with that squib Kansas City double. Kansas City blue plate special right off the end of the bat between LaRoche and the first baseline.
A lot of infielders like to read the ball off the bat. They like to look at the angle of the bat, but that one was unreadable.
Yeah, he could have caught that ball with a pair of tweezers. Meanwhile, Forsythe 3 for 4 with a homer and 4 RBIs against Tampa. Had a good rip at that one. Short and quick, just underneath it.
Jose got away with one because that fastball at 92 was right down the middle. On the way Forsythe has been swinging it, he doesn't miss these too often. Take a look at the Xfinity pitch tracks. He was fortunate that time.
Two and two. Times when clubs have a guy like a club like Tampa Bay has a guy like Longoria. There's a base hit into left field. Makes a hard turn, but he knows who's out there. But a lot of times when a club like Tampa Bay has a player like Longoria, they're better off trading.
Well, they could get a bundle if they ever put him on the open market.
Sure, they trade him. And there's contending teams around that would just love to have Evan Longoria. Unless they wanted to go out and sign a DH or a big offensive bat, free agent.
One thing you wonder, he's the face of their franchise, and you wonder if he might have a no-trade contract in the long-term deal he signed.
That ball into right field. We got a man there. So Asdrubal is retired, and we'll go to the bottom of the third, still trailing 1-0. Called up. Brother Clay with the NBA champion Warriors. Dad Michael, 13 or 14 years in the NBA. And it was just a matter of time before this young man started to figure it out a little bit. He's 24 years old. He's 6'3". He's a big person. Wide shoulders. He got a chance to be a heck of a player. Most of you have heard me talk about him in the past.
Well, I talked to Jeremy Haber, the assistant GM to Rick Hahn, and he said that Trace Thompson is a major league quality center fielder today. He can play here and do everything there is to be done. It's a question of his bat catching up to it, but you figure as athletic as he is, that's going to happen.
He got a chance to be a good one. He got a chance to be 25, 30 home run guy. Lays off the curveball. Tyler at 222, 7 homers, 27 knocked in.
Be nice to be able to get to Carnes before he gets his control, because he hasn't had real good control the first 2 innings.
That one at 94. Now, if he gets control of that hook and starts throwing quality curveballs, you've got a problem.
That time he went up, it was in the strike zone. Tyler was able to just get a piece of it, but it stuck in Casale's glove.
So here's Adam. He struck out. Check swing on a curveball. That's the 3rd strikeout. Carnes got Eaton in the 1st, Garcia in the 2nd, and Tyler here so far in the 3rd. Top of the zone.
There you look at the 11-game hitting streak and what Adam has done, hitting a robust .455. He's also scoring a lot of runs when he gets on, and that's what a good leadoff hitter does.
There's that hook. He's been crossing home plate a lot. Right at the bottom of the zone, had just the corner of the plate. 2 down. So here's Tyler. Jammed himself on a curveball and popped it up. To Richie Schaffer at first base. Talking about Adam crossing home plate. 18 runs he scored in the last 16 games.
He's been stealing bases much more effectively, and he's getting on all the time. So he has certainly helped the club.
Changeup.
That's one of the first Carnes has gotten over the plate. It was no surprise that Carnes is striking out a whole lot of people.
He got away with one right there. And that one's hooked.
Last year he was tied for strikeouts of all AAA pitchers. He had 153 of them in the minor leagues last year.
Strikes out the side. He now has 5, and he leads it 1-0. League at bat. Takes that curveball strike.
They originally figured him for a third baseman. Now they're going to shift him around, and he's going to get some looks at first base.
Well, he can get looks at anywhere except third.
He won't get any looks at third. No, not with the Rays.
One and two to count. He's 6'3", 210 out of Charlotte, the Queen City. He was first round draft choice in 2012, 25th player taken overall. Outfield straight up bunched. Had him 0-2. It is now 3-2. He gone.
Elevated fastball, but it was in the zone, and he throws it right by him. Good life at 92. And you see the hand come off the bat? No chance. After that first inning, lengthy first inning, it's been economical as far as pitches for Jose.
He's getting it and throwing it now.
He'll do that with nobody on. Then his tendency to slow it way down.
Two 2-0. Mikey Matuk grounded out. Saladino stepped on the bag to retire the side in the first inning. Right there. Nike was a first round pick in 2011. 31st player overall.
Second hitter in a row that Jose has gone full.
Kevin Kiermaier on deck. And once again, the payoff.
Sox fans, come to the ballpark and show your White Sox pride on August 11th for Orgullo Sox Night, presented by Pepsi. All members of the Hispanic community, their families and friends can buy specially priced tickets at whitesox.com/orgullo. Anyone who purchases through this link will receive a free Yo Soy White Sox rally towel.
Kiermaier grounded out to Adam LaRoche at first. And and he takes first pitch strike. Kiermaier helped lead Fort Wayne's Bishop Luers High School to an Indiana State championship. Now field slightly to the left. Be fairly shallow out there, right? As that pitch inside. Can't get him. Slowly hit. They get to force the second. 2 out.
This is a particularly good double play combination, but this ball doesn't have a whole lot on it. So you get the lead runner. Lexi gave it a try, but Kiermaier able to beat it. He's only grounded into 3 double plays all year and 336 at bats.
So here is Kurt Casale, catcher. Struck out, called out his first trip.
Kiermaier, one of their premier base stealers. They've really only got a couple of them. 11 out of 13 in that department, and he's got a good lead at first.
Yanks that one foul. One ball, one strike to Casale, 26-year-old receiver. Hitting at 246 coming in. 7 homers and 11 knocked in. Tampa Bay got him from Detroit. Southpaw Kurt Lobstein.
We saw Lobstein with the Tigers. He can be pretty effective as a soft tossing left-hander.
All our fans out there know
how effective
about
a soft
soft
tosser
tossing.
can be.
They know how tough they are on us. You ask the majority of hitters in the American League, they'd rather face a guy with a 100-mile-an-hour fastball than a guy like Kurt Lobstein. That's why all you youngsters out there in high school, college, especially the southpaws, the left-handers, you don't have to throw hard to pitch in the big leagues. If you control your fastball and have a good changeup. He gone. 4 strikeouts now, and we trail it 1-0.
Sponsored by Jeff Vukovich, your local nationwide insurance agent serving the area for 37 years. To join the nation, visit jeffvuk.com because Nationwide is on your side. As you can see, a big 0 in the hit column as Carnes has gone through the lineup once, and he's down to number 3. So the heart of the order due up against Carnes the second time they're seeing him should be a better trip than the first.
Well, we haven't even come close to a hit. Jose checks it up. He walked his first trip. One of 2 issued by Carnes.
If he keeps staying with that fastball away to Jose, he's going to give up a hit. Had a good straight change out of the zone.
In the finale of that 3-game set, we played them down in St. Pete on June 14th. Carnes went 6 innings, 1 run, 7 hits, 1 walk, and he had 8 strikeouts. But he, for the most part, just dominated our guys. And there's what Steve was talking about. You can cancel the post-game show.
Promising way to start the 4th. The 19th double of the year. And Kiermaier, even with all of his speed, couldn't get to it. Jose, if you missed it earlier, we talked about the fact that Jose and Adam Eaton, co-American League Players of the Week. And Jose continues that hot streak.
$14 in a row he has hit in. And Melky. That curveball hit in the left field. That's out number 1. So you can't get him over. And here comes Alexa. He popped up to second base.
What Alexi's been doing recently is looking for a fastball inside. And a lot of guys think that they might be able to overpower him in there, but he's got pretty quick hands when he's looking for it, and he's been hitting a lot straight down the line in left and to left center. They got a shift on. There you see what's happened the last 15. He's hitting over 300 with 5 home runs and 11 driven in and 9 scored. So things getting a whole lot better. And now, because he has been pulling just about everything, Tampa has 3 guys on the left side of the infield.
Of course, check that. Schaffer, Richie Schaffer.
Sox fans, on Friday, August 14th at 3:10, our White Sox take on the Chicago Cubs. First 10,000 fans will receive a White Sox rally towel presented by United Airlines. United, proud to fly the Chicago White Sox. Purchase tickets today by visiting whitesox.com or calling 866-SOX-GAME.
Good people. Art Sparky, Side Pole, Joe Bonilla, and then good folks at Atlantic Aviation.
They treat us really well every time we go out or come in.
Bernard Young and his crew, they do a terrific job. Here's Adam. He walked his first trip. That questionable pitch right there goes Carnes' way.
Now the exaggerated shift on Adam, who went to left field yesterday, turned it into a base hit. In this situation, with a runner at second and 2 outs, Sox hitters have plated at least 1 run 18% of the time, with the league average at 20. And the Tampa Bay Rays pitchers have given up runs under league average.
2-1. Ivy on deck. Pitch here might tell you a little something.
If it's a pitch around or he's actually thinking about getting him.
Well, he got him down in Tampa.
That time on the curveball out of the zone, he pretty much invited Adam to get himself out on a pitch out of the zone. If you swing at it, well, you do.
Yeah, he didn't care if it was a ball or not.
He probably won't on this pitch either.
Full count. Don't help him out. Payoff pitch. Got him. And that'll retire the side. We're into the fifth, trailing 1-0.
T-shirt Monday. Next one will be against the Angels next Monday. Everybody who came to the ballpark got one of those good-looking T-shirts.
Top of the order for the Rays here in the top of the fifth. They lead it 1-0. A first inning run. And there's a curveball strike to Brandon Guyer. Pretty good pitch, didn't get it. Big gap out there in left center. And that's the souvenir right side. Checks it up, fouls it off. 1-4-0 for them. No runs, just one hit. That was that double by Abreu. Leading off last inning, and we left him right there at second base. And that fastball, a little tardy.
Geyer's got some pretty good pop. He originally came over from the Chicago Cubs in a huge deal that netted them Chris Archer also, with Matt Garza going the other way from Tampa to the north side of Chicago.
Little flip by Saladino, 1 out.
Join the White Sox in honoring the Chicago area police and fire departments on Wednesday, August 12th. First 10,000 fans receive a White Sox tablet cover presented by UL. For more than a century, UL has been committed to fire safety, so learn more at ul.com/fire. To purchase tickets, visit whitesox.com/PDFD or call 866-SOX-GAME.
Joey Butler, 1 for 2, a single and a run scored. That ball hit deep into right field. He drops the ball. Now Butler will pull up at second. He was playing shallow and had a long way to go. Got the leather on it and couldn't hold it.
Lexi's shaking his head. I mean, Avi's shaking his head, knowing he probably should have had it, but it is a 2-base hit.
Yeah, when you get to it, you should have it. So here's Longoria. Hard single. His first at bat, then he hit a chopper 2 hopper to Alexei, his second trip. Logan Forsythe, who is 2 for 2 on deck. That's high, and that's not going to be playable.
Well, the fan right over the dugout could not make the catch, and the ball bounds in the Rays dugout.
Two balls and a strike. To the Rays third baseman. And that's in the whole base hit. They're going to hold him. Trouble a brewing. Runners at the corners, 1 out.
Longoria continues to pull the ball for the first extended time of the year, and this time he finds the gap on the left side of the infield. Joey Butler didn't really know if Saladino was going to get to it, so he hesitated. That made it so he couldn't even think about coming home. So runners at the corners with only an out, and here comes Don Cooper on the run from the dugout. And it gives us a chance to tell you that the White Sox made another front office move today. Doug Lauman, who was the amateur scouting director, is going to be given a chance to move up, scout some international players, and the new director of amateur scouting head is Nick Hostetler, who comes up from the system, was an area scout originally with the White Sox, then later went to Atlanta. Only to come back to the White Sox, working his way up. He's 37 years old, apparently a very hardworking guy, and you're going to have to if you're going to be the scouting director. So few people getting promotions, and it's nice to see. Promote from within, and that's usually a pretty good thing.
Forsythe had that little Kansas City special double right off the end of the bat to knock in the run in the first, and then he singled solidly into left field.
Comes to replay way back in the first inning. And Forsythe squibs it up the first base line. A two-base hit, his 46th driven in. And that is the only run of the game to this point.
He now has faced Quintana 5 times, has 4 hits.
Well, not only did he play 5 positions last year as a jack of all trades for these Rays, but he also hit in every position in the batting order, which is pretty unusual.
Hard high, slow low.
Nice stop by Tyler as he got down. Didn't try to catch that one, just let it hit off the chest protector and barely trickle away.
Beats that one down off the plate. Forsythe last year for Tampa, 223, 6 homers, knocked in 26 in 110 games.
When you're not slated to start, and then you work your way not only into the everyday lineup, but you're considered the best hitter in this lineup, it's a pretty good trick.
Getting in shape. Butler tagging. Here he comes. And it's 2-0. So the double off the glove of Bobby comes around to score.
RBI number 47, and Forsythe has them both.
Here's Asdrubal. He has struck out and he has gone out to right field. Outfield bunched just a bit. Slight gap out there in left center. There's a line shot. That's just Cabrera's second hit in 19 at bats off Quintana.
Pretty hard to believe, but he got his fastball, and for the most part he got it down the middle and low. He just took it right over Carlos's head on into right field. Pretty high total of pitches so far.
Schaffer. His first major league at bat was hit by a pitch. That was in the first inning. And leading off the fourth, he struck out.
Let's hope we don't see that big power in this series, because he's got it.
Count evens at 1.
With the league average of 22, Tampa Bay Rays with first and second and 2 outs. They've scored at least one 17% of the time, with the Sox pitchers giving up at least one only 15% of the time.
One in, 2 out, 2 on, 1 and 2 the count. A little too low, says David Rackley. He gone. Throws him, but they come up with a run. We're halfway home, trailing 2-0.
To learn more, Wintrust Community Bank, member FDIC.
Our half of the 5th inning, we trail it 2-0. We only have 1 hit. It's a leadoff double. Last inning by Abreu. First pitch strike. Bobby struck out on a bad curveball his first trip.
That time he expanded his zone, there's no base hits that high and inside. 7 strikeouts for Carnes as he throws another hook. Gets ahead 0-2 and puts him away with 1 out of the zone.
So here's Sanchez.
Not a whole lot of pressure applied to Nathan Carnes at this point, so he's kept his pitches to a minimum.
Nope. Not a whole lot of pressure put on.
Nope. He has walked a couple, but that was in the first 2 innings. Now he's getting everything over the plate.
Yeah, when he gets to that point that he can get that curveball over anytime he wants to.
He's going to be a tough at bat.
Yeah. Oh, and 2. Chopper 2, Hopper.
Absolutely wonderful pitchers matchup tomorrow night. Chris Archer, their best. Chris Sale, our best, going head-to-head in the second game of a 3-game series.
Here's Tyler. Tyler struck out his only at bat.
There's a look at Chris Archer. Young, hard thrower with just exceptional stuff.
Yeah, he's a good pitcher. He's a pitcher too, even though he throws hard.
Well, the Indians traded him away originally because he couldn't get the ball over the plate, but he was very young. He went to the Cubs and they traded him away because he had great stuff but couldn't get the ball over the plate. And sometimes the third time is the charm. Now he's getting the ball over the plate.
Well, there are a couple pretty good pitching coaches in this ballpark tonight. Always one with us, Coop. And those guys over there, that man Hickey has put out some good pitchers over the years.
There is no doubt because they can really develop. There is a look at one of the better pitching coaches around in an organization known for bringing a lot of talent, pitching talent, through their organization.
High right side. And that is caught a 1-2-3 inning. 6 in a row retired since the double by Brady.
97999 right now for your chance to win 6 meals from the Simple 6 menu from Subway. Message and data rates may apply. Subway, eat fresh.
It's a 2-0 Tampa Bay lead. They scored 1 in the first and 1 in the fifth. Matuk, Kiermaier, and Casale. Curveball strike.
Bottom part of the order, if Jose wants to hang around at 96 pitches, he wants to keep this inning to a minimum.
Texas laying it on Houston 11-3. Just 1 home run for the Texas Rangers. Chu hit his 14th, but everybody else. Andrus 2 for 3. Moreland 2 for 3, 2 RBIs. Beltre 3 for 3, 2 RBIs. Fielder 2 for 3, 2 RBIs. Odor 2 for 3.
Houston came out of that series with the Angels looking pretty good. The Angels now have lost 6 in a row. They come into action tonight, 4 games in back of Houston. But the pitching just didn't have it, and the Texas Rangers are pounding the baseball these days.
McCullers really got lit up. He gone. 1 out. Well, besides that, Houston has more home runs in that game than Texas. Correa hit his 13th. Valbuena hit his 20th.
How about Correa with 13 home runs? I believe he leads all major league shortstops at this point, and he's only been here about half as much as just about everybody else. It's pretty amazing what the 20-year-old is accomplishing in Houston.
Kiermaier is grounded to first and grounded to second. Yanks that one foul. Adams got him. 2 down.
That one was hard to hit, but hit it to the wrong guy. Zadal Roche, very good first baseman, made the play easily. In fact, these days, just about everybody in the infield is the wrong guy to hit it to, as the infield has played spectacular defense for the better part of 3.5 weeks.
Yes, he did. Says Hunter. Hunter went on step. Good umpire at first base. Son of Harry. Two out and the 1-1 pitch. That's good defense. That's one of the reasons that we've been playing well and winning some ball games. Seems like when you play real good defense, you hit better, because when you play bad defense, the other team's scoring runs and puts more pressure on your offense.
And there you look at the numbers for Jose so far. He's kept them to 2 earned runs and only walked 1. But he's on the short end of a 2-0 score.
Well, since June 30th. We were 18-11. That's the second best record in the American League behind the Yankees. That's what good defense will get you. He gone. Nice 1-2-3 inning, and we'll go to the bottom half of the sixth, trailing by 2.
White Sox fan photo of the game is brought to you by Beggar's Pizza, now at 22 locations. Visit beggarspizza.com because Beggar's Pizza, they lay it on thick.
Top of the order here in the bottom of the sixth inning. Adam Eaton. Adam 0 for 2, a couple of strikeouts. Check swing curveball, the other than the call. Third strike fastball.
Pretty good idea, but he fouled it off. Longoria was coming in. He's a hard guy to bunt on because he's an excellent fielder. He's not a fast guy, but he's a very quick guy, which is really what you need at third base. First step quickness.
That's in the center field. Well, the Atlanta Braves were trailing San Francisco 6-0. A.J. Pierzynski in the bottom of the ninth just hit a 2-run homer to tie it at 7. He is 3 for 4 in that game with those 2 RBIs and 2 runs scored.
They are huge games for San Francisco. Will fall in 2.5 games in back of Los Angeles for the division title, and they're in a wild card battle in the National League. That's a big lead to squander.
Pierzynski having a big year for those guys. It's his 7th homer. He's got 34 RBIs. He's hitting .299.
Xavier Cedeno.
I don't care. Bring them all.
Gomes.
Bring one of them all.
Yeah. Anybody but the philosophy of anybody but Carnes holds true here.
There's a shot. Base hit. That a boy. Tyler Soler. 1-out single. He's now 1 for 3.
White Sox fans on Saturday, August 15th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Chicago White Sox Volunteer Corps and First Merit Bank are teaming up to clean up the Elliott Donnelly Youth Center and host an end of the summer barbecue for the youth and families at the center. For more information, please visit whitesox.com/volunteer corps.
So here's the Abreu has our other hit, that leadoff double to right center in the fourth. Pretty good lead. That ball hit deep stretch. Back at the wall, jumps and makes the catch.
I don't think so.
I can't tell. Has he got it? No, he does not, and you can. Put it on the board. Yes. Two-run homer, and this game is tied at 2.
Well, Kevin Cash had a pretty good idea that his right-handed starter was losing it because he had the bullpen going when this inning started. After an out, a solid base hit and a towering home run, and it's a brand new game, and this is a hanging curveball. This ball just comes up rolling instead of breaking. Kiermaier gives it his best effort, but he comes up just a little short. That's 19 home runs, 64 driven in. If they're meeting to see if it was fan interference, it didn't look like it was even close to that.
Well, if it was, that fan's got some of the longest arms you want to see.
He's got real long arms. Kiermaier goes up, but that ball clearly cleared his glove, and nobody interfered with him. That hat wasn't really all that close to him. But I guess Kevin Cash has nothing to lose by challenging the call. See the young fan with his hat. This ball is clearly over the wall, and that hat does not affect him one iota. And that was a no-brainer call.
Yeah, as quick as what we've seen.
You're not kidding. 19 and 64 on the power numbers, and Jose continues to pound the baseball.
And with that home run by Abreu, Alex Nelia's family, along with Christine O'Reilly and White Sox Charities, will hook up in loving memory of Ursula.
So as Carnes walks out, we'll step out and be back after these messages. A little above 4.5 on for the 38th time. Opponent's hitting a pretty high number, 270 against him. And so now with the game squarely in his hands, as Carnes will depart after 5 1/3. He gave up the 2 runs. He will leave with a no decision. He only gave up 3 hits. Walked 2, fanned 7.
So 1 out, and here's Cabrera. Melky 0 for 2. Gomes grew up in Fall River, Mass. Evidently, he's got a pretty good hit on his shoulders as well. He double majored in finance and business law at Tulane. Shot, but Forsythe was there to hang Wolfham for Cabrera.
They'll get that ball awfully hard.
So here's Alexei. He has popped up to second, and he's popped up to first. Jacks it up. Chops that one foul.
Really interesting because in the infield they were playing Alexei as a dead pull hitter. In the outfield, the whole at bat, they're playing him as an opposite field hitter with Kiermaier round toward right center. Everything this at bat has been down and away.
Another. Softly hit. Get over his head. It won't, but as we go to break, we will show you one more time this game-tying homer by Jose Abreu.
is squarely in the hands of the bullpen. And Jose Quintana, once again, the king of no decisions, will get a no decision as Jake Petrichka comes into this 3-2, his ERA an even 3, and it's been sinking recently. On for the 43rd time. And he's been throwing a great sinker lately. He's got to deal with a lineup that's been struggling a bit, trying to score some runs.
He's Grady Sizemore. Hitting for Brandon Guyer, who was 0 for 3 tonight. Grady, a former 3-time All-Star. I believe a 2-time Golden Glove winner.
Well, until he started to get hurt and his body started to plague him, he was a wonderful player with the Indians for quite some time.
Well, Ozzie said it, and it was close. He said he was the best player in the Central Division. Yeah, there's another guy in that Tampa Bay uniform, too, that was really, really unlucky. I mean, he was a great-looking player. And his name is Rocco Baldelli.
Rocco was a really, really good player that wound up not realizing his potential because his body just gave up on him. He caught
that ball, hit hard. He won't get that one. So there is the watch out. Ball got away, so he'll go into third.
That will really put the pressure on Petrichka, and it goes double E9. Probably not having the best of nights in right field as Grady Sizemore absolutely crushes this one.
And now the infield in. John Jasel.
He's been a real good hitter this year in limited action, hitting .350.
Butler was 2 for 3, a single, a double, and he had scored both Tampa Bay runs. One and one to count. Close pitch, didn't get it.
Jaso's been a pretty good pinch hitter, 3 for 6 with 2 runs driven in.
Nice stop. He'll hold the runner. Step on the bag. Beautiful play. Ball was hit hard. Beautiful play by Adam LaRoche.
With the infield in all the way around, Adam just makes a spectacular catch, saving a 2-base hit, saving the go-ahead run, and making sure this one doesn't find its way into right field. Terrific play.
So now here's a tough customer at the plate. 2 for 3 tonight. Evan Longoria.
He's got 5 sacrifice flies this year.
Fouls that one away. Good movement.
Well, that's a 96-mile-an-hour sinker.
He's got some good late movement on that thing when he's healthy and when he's right.
Nice stop by Tyler as that one almost got away. Pitcher right here is thinking ground ball. If it gets through, it gets through. But with the infield in, you've got to keep the ball down, induce a ground ball, and just hope it's right at somebody.
Two balls and a strike. 2-8-0 for them. 2-3-1 for us. That's fair ball, and they lead it 3-2. Just a rocket.
It's going to be a two-base hit as the fan reached out and stopped it from going in the corner.
His 24th double.
Well, just as we were told, he's starting to pull just about everything. And when he does pull the ball, he can hit it as hard as just about anybody around. That one clearly fair. Bob Davidson on the call. And he's got a two-base hit. And his 46th run driven into the year and his 24th double.
So here's Forsythe. RBI double right off the end of the bat. A squibber. Kansas City special in the first inning. Then he singles sharply in the third. Sacrifice fly in the fifth. Two and 0.
Zach Duke loosening up in the pen.
Three and nothing.
You would think that Kevin Cash would give Forsythe the 3-0 green light. Tom Foley to his left. Not taken all the way.
One in, one out. The 3-1 pitch.
Took a little something off that, and he had Forsythe well out in front of it. So Cedeno loosening up in the pen. He's been up for quite some time.
Two down.
He swung at two pitches way out of the strike zone and absolutely got himself out that time as Don Cooper comes out. He wants a word with Jake.
As Drupal Cabrera will be the hitter. Talking about those. Chris Bryant has 14 home runs.
Not surprising, and he's going to be a prolific run producer as well as home runs. He can drive
Carlos Correa's got 13 home runs, and Bryant's got over 150 more at bats than Correa.
But we saw Correa break in here, and he looked like something special. And if you watch the defensive highlights on a nightly basis, Correa usually finds his way into those. He made a play yesterday up the middle on a 360 spin and throw to first base to get a runner. It was just a brilliant play at shortstop.
He's a big man. So Cabrera 1 for 3. Struck out, fly to right, and singled to right. Just going to go ahead and put him on and get to Richie Schaffer.
Well, you figure if James Loney is ready to go and healthy, he's 3 for 3 as a pinch hitter. And Schaffer, his major league debut, 0 for 2 with 2 strikeouts. Sox fans, head to your local Famous Dave's and receive a scratch and win ticket for your chance to win a trip to New York. See the White Sox battle the Yankees, throw out a first pitch at a White Sox game, and also get great offers from Famous Dave's along with discount tickets. Head to your local Famous Dave's today for your chance to be a winner.
So here is the rookie in his major league debut tonight. Takes that inside. Stops that one foul over our dugout.
Took a little something off, like the second strike that he threw to Forsythe. This time he got Schaffer well out in front of him.
2-2 the count. And it's full. Runners go. And he walks it. There's Mikey Matuk. Swings at a bad pitch, helps him out. 0-1 the count.
Not the greatest speed on the base paths, but they are loaded.
Oh, 0-2. He gone. Jake Meister pitches out of it. But they pick up one. 7th inning stretch, they lead it by 1.
He's 1-1 this year. His ERA 2.25 overall. There you look at the numbers. On for the 43rd time, he's been asked to save a couple of games. He's not been equal to the task. Opponent's hitting 225, which is 252 rather, which is a pretty good number. Just about 9 hits per 9 innings. And he inherits a 1-run lead. And Grady Sizemore, who's double leading off the inning, has produced a go-ahead run. So he's in left field. James Loney comes in to play defense at first.
Three 9-0 for them, 2-3-1 for us. Here's Adam. Takes it off the plate. Adam has walked. He's also struck out. He's 0 for 1.
You wonder if Cedeno is only going to be on for one hitter because the right-hander Steve Geltz throwing in the pen. And Javi Garcia in the on-deck circle.
Guarding the line. He's a good first baseman. Just having a tough season.
He is that.
Yeah, he's healthy. He is a pretty solid line drive hitter.
And a guy who just doesn't strike out very often. That was somewhat surprising. I know that Kevin Cash was kind of concerned about Zach Duke, the left-hander, coming in, but he let a kid in his major league debut face a pretty good reliever instead of going to Loney, who's 3 for 3 as a pinch hitter.
Good job just to get a piece of that one.
Well, that was low and out of the zone, and Adam was able to stay alive.
1 out.
Cedeno was traded from the Washington Nationals to the Los Angeles Dodgers on April 22nd. And then the Dodgers designated him for assignment on the 24th, then traded him to the Tampa Bay Rays. So that's going to be it. And Geltz will come in. Cedeno was on for 1 hitter. We'll step out and be back after these messages. And favorite players all season long by visiting whitesox.com/connect today. We've got a new pitcher coming in the ball game. And he inherits the bases empty. 1 out here in the bottom of the 7th inning, and it's Steve Geltz, who's 2-4. His ERA 3.42, on for the 51st time, so he's been a busy man. He has saved a couple. An opponent's hitting just 163, which is a very low number.
So here's Avi. It'll be Avi, Sanchez, and Flowers, schedule hitters. Avi 0 for 2, a couple strikeouts. Both on curveballs. Takes first pitch strike. Geltz, 5'10", 210.
Would fall into that stocky right-hander category?
That's exactly the category he falls into. That ball in the gap. Nobody's going to get that one. So he will make the turn going into second base. And that is his 11th two-bagger. Attaboy, Avi.
This pitch is out of the strike zone. He went down and got it. And with the defense shading him toward right center, he hits it into left center.
Boys, we have got to play some baseball 101 here. Had a chance back in the 4th inning with a leadoff double by Abreu and left him right at second base. Trailing by 1. Yes, there is. There is. I forgot about LeBeau striking out. So get him in there. There's breaking ball strike. Gap out there in right center. And the ball gets away.
That bounced right off Casale and into the stands.
Got a break. Let's take advantage of it.
Now the infield has to come in with the tying run 90 feet away.
Tim Hickey, the pitching coach, out to the mound. Meeting of the minds at the mound is over.
Kind of interesting because Kiermaier in center field went over to talk to Sizemore and left. And I'm wondering if there's a shallow fly ball to left center, if Kiermaier didn't say, you know what, let me take this. I think it might be able to get him.
Infield in. That'll get the job done. Stretch! Stretch! He looks up. You can put it on the board. Yes! Two-run homer for Carlos. Center Sox lead it 4-3.
Third home run of the year. RBIs 15 and 16. And just like that, the one-run deficit is erased.
Now that's baseball 101.
And Geltz gives up his 6th home run of the year.
Here's Tyler. Takes ball 1. And that evens the count.
This one turns out to be a no-doubter, as Carlos, on a pitch on the inside part of the plate, takes it out by plenty. Hermie gives him a pat on the back. A very happy dugout greeted him after his trip around the bases.
3-9-1 for them. 4-5-1 for us, as that's out to play right side. Right to the shift. Two down, and that'll bring up Adam. Adam's due. He is 0 for 3.
That one took a very funny hop, but Forsythe was able to stay with it and make the play.
He got a cookie right there and missed it. Two-run homers. Abreu, Sanchez. That is top foul. Count hangs at 1 and 2.
That one eventually wound up in the camera well. Young man, pretty happy.
Got him, but the two-run homer by Carlos Sanchez wins to the 8th. We lead it by 1.
game. Quintana went 6, got a no decision, although he threw well. Abreu and Sanchez with 2-run homers, 1 in the 6th, 1 in the 7th, and there we stand. Honda, great deals are happening at the Honda Summer Clearance event. Now at your Honda dealer. And Zach Duke comes into the game.
Had a strike right there, and it wasn't called.
There you look at the numbers, and Zach's been pretty good on for the 47th time.
Kiermaier, 0 for 3 tonight. Now make it 0 for 4.
Watch every out-of-market game live or on demand in true HD and over 400 mobile and connected devices. Real-time highlights, live look-ins, pitch tracking widget, and more. Blackout and other restrictions apply, so visit MLB.tv for details.
Here's Casale. Kurt 0 for 3, 3 strikeouts. 1 call, 2 swinging. Quickly, the count 0-2. First of 3 against these guys. Tomorrow night, Chris Sale against Chris Archer, and on Wednesday afternoon in the finale, Carlos Rodon against Erasmo Ramirez. Make your plans to be with us here at the ballpark if you can. Both those games, tomorrow and Wednesday afternoon, will be on Comcast Sportsnet. Close pitch, didn't get it. Two. All right, this nice little Cantini bounce. 2 down. And that'll bring up Grady Sizemore, who pinch hit. Leading off last inning and doubled. Just ripped one into right field. Sizemore, as I mentioned, 3-time All-Star, 2-time Gold Glove winner. That ball here way back. Way out of here, and this game is tied at 4.
Sizemore's been on for 2 innings. He's got a double, a home run, 2 runs scored. And Avi gave it the courtesy run, but that one was way back and out of here. But Grady Sizemore comes off the bench, gets a hanging slider in the middle of the plate, and hits it out of the ballpark. That's his 3rd home run of the year. He's now driven in 8.
So here's Tim Beckham hitting for Jaso.
Beckham, a former #1 draft pick.
Right to him. But the long home run by Grady Sizemore. We're tied at 4.
WGNTV.com and click on the WGN Sports Game Zone banner for the latest stats and information. The Sox Game Zone is powered by Robert Morris, University of Illinois, offering over 55 athletic teams, more than any other university in the state. For more information on RMU, visit robertmorris.edu. And we've got a new pitcher coming into this 4-4 tie heading into the bottom of the 8th, and it's hard-throwing Jake McGee. There you see the numbers, and they've been pretty good. He's been asked to save 7 games, been successful 5 times. He gave way as the closer to Boxberger, who's got 26 saves this year. Jake has a very lively fastball. He was timed upwards of 97 at one point. Let's see how he's doing these days.
So a 4-4 tie. And here's Tyler. Tyler 1 for 3 with a single and a run scored. One and one to count. If you're just joining us, 3 home runs in this ball game, 1 by them. That was a 1-hit last inning. On the top half of this inning by Grady Sizemore. Tie it. Had a 2-run shot from Abreu in the 6th. That was his 19th. He now has 64 RBIs. A 2-run homer last inning by Sanchez, his 3rd. He now has 16 knocked in. One out.
Our 4th drive of the game came in the 6th. A 2-run homer by Jose Abreu, tying it at 2 as Kiermaier goes up as high as he can go up, and he can't bring it down. At the 19th of the year, giving Jose 64 runs batted in.
Next first pitch strike, that one at 94.
McGee has had some physical problems, so that fastball down about 3 miles an hour from what he once had. Best we've seen so far, 94.
That ball hit hard into right field. But Kiermaier got a good jump. 2 down.
The Rays were positioned perfectly as Jose bidding for a 2-base hit, and with a different type of defense, he probably would have had it. But Kiermaier in the neighborhood, able to run it down.
There is Melky. And that ball into right field. So McGee, very quick. 1, 2, 3, and we're into the 9th.
Game of the Red Sox series in Boston, so it's been a week. He's 4-2, ERA 2.63, on for the 40th time as Robin plays by an inning, bringing his closer in. Trying to nail down the 9th, turn it over to the offense. You just hope that that week's inactivity hasn't affected Robertson's control. Big part of the order due up here in the top of the 9th.
Longoria is 3 for 4. 2 singles, a double, and an RBI. Against David, he is faced him 13 times, has 2 hits. High chopper on a curveball. Quickly, 1 down. Logan Forsythe, he's 2 for 3, RBI double, a squibber right off the end of the bat in the first inning, then a sharp single into left in the 3rd, sacrifice fly, and then a grounder to 3rd. Takes first pitch strike. San Francisco has scored 1 in the Top of the 12th to take an 8-7 lead over Atlanta. Pierzynski's 2-run homer in the bottom of the 9th, tied it at 7 for the Braves. One and 2 the count.
That was a real good curveball. Wound up out of the zone, but it looked like a strike to Forsythe.
All right, put him away, David.
Texas was leading 11-3 over Houston. Rangers hitting now in the bottom of the 7th is 12-9.
Wind blowing out, and Houston's not giving up in the battle of the Lone Star State.
Adrian Beltre has hit for the cycle in that game. That's the 3rd time he's done that in his career.
That's pretty impressive. In fact, he got that done before 6 innings were over.
Fouls that back. In fact, he joins Babe Herman and Bob Musial, only player since 1900 with 3 cycles in their career.
Adrian's been very good for a long time.
Boy, he's been a great player. Wow. There's the walk. One out, one on, and that'll bring up Cabrera, who is 1 for 3.
Asdrubal to this point has never had a hit. 0 for 7 against David Robertson. You got James Loney in the on deck circle, who came out to play defense for Richie Schaffer. Outfield very deep all the way around, playing a no double set. As you look at a man that's very difficult to strike out in James Loney.
There he goes. Ball into right field. So the walk now is on 3rd. One out, runners at the corners.
Kevin Cash rolls the dice. Forsythe takes off. This fastball on the inside part of the plate. Cabrera gets his first hit ever against David Robertson and puts runners at the corners. And although Loney doesn't run particularly well, he also has only fanned 17 times in 194 at bats. Infield has to come in with a go-ahead run 90 feet away.
Loney has faced Robertson 9 times, has 1 hit. Now the infield looking for 2 up the middle. Takes first pitch strike. Big gap in left center. And get foul. It will. Loney hesitated when he hit it, then all of a sudden started running.
Fortunately, that ball just barely hooked foul. This pitch is low and in out of the strike zone, and Loney looking at it, realizing it had a chance to be fair, just wasn't. David could really use a strikeout here.
Well, slow low, a hard high right underneath the hands.
He's going to the hook.
Slow low.
Nice stop by Tyler Flowers. That was a biting breaking ball at 86. Tyler, having called for it, knows that he had to smother anything in the dirt, and that's where that wipeout pitch was. Bird doesn't have much speed at first. Forsythe with pretty good speed at third.
Come on, David.
He gone. Big strikeout.
He gets one of the tougher guys in baseball to strike out on a terrific pitch. Tyler Flowers able to make sure that it doesn't get by. Now the infield can move back to their regular depth.
Matuk. 0 for 3. Walked back in the 4th inning. Rivera just a static lead as he cannot get that one. It is 5-4. Tampa Bay on a rolling curveball.
Yeah, unfortunately, that was a hanger. And Matuk, who now only has 5 runs batted in, drives home the go-ahead run. David threw such great breaking balls to Loney, only to roll this one on the inner portion, just stayed right there.
So here's Kiermaier. For our guys in the bottom of the 9th, it'll be Ramirez, LaRoche, Garcia. Going to the count. And fastball at 94. And Alexei's got this one. But they come up with one. We'll go to the bottom of the 9th. It is 5-4 bad guys.
Tampa goes to their closer. And there he is, Brad Boxberger. At 4-6, his ERA just under 3, on for 47th time. He's been successful 26 of 28 in save opportunities, with opponents hitting .213. 55 strikeouts, 21 walks. He's been pretty effective, and Sox have to come back and score at least one and hopefully two.
And I want to thank Kyle Leone, our interns for most of the summer here, for a job well done and his presence in the booth, that ever-present smile. Thanks a lot, Kyle. Good luck, buddy. Son of Frank. There's a pair will be the full house. But right here, we got some work to do. Alexei, LaRoche, and Avi. That strike right at the bottom of the zone at 93. Alexei has seen Boxberger one time and hasn't hit. Alexei tonight, though, is 3 pop-ups. One to second, one to first, and one to short. Those pitch, that one goes Alexei's way. So the count 1-1. Had him way out front on that.
That was a good changeup. But he threw with the same release point and the same arm speed as he throws his fastball.
Come on, LSC.
Yes, up the middle and into center field for the base hit. Attaboy, Alexei.
Casale wanted that fastball face high, and Boxberger, who has an on-base percentage of .463 with 2 strikes, got it just above the belt. Alexei representing the tying run, aboard to lead off the inning.
So here's Adam. A walk, couple of strikeouts. He's 0 for 2. And he has faced Boxberger once. He's 0 for 1. He's going to see some change-ups and somewhere in this sequence. Starts him off with 1.
They've got the shift on. But Forsythe is not all that deep. Lang is a dead pull hitter at second base.
They're going to double him up on the change.
And he got hit with the backswing. Casale on the backswing looked like he got hit by that lengthy stroke of Adam LaRoche. He asks if he's okay. Bang. Helmet and mask.
There goes Alexei.
That time Boxberger paid no attention to him, and that could prove very costly.
That's his 14th stolen base in 18 attempts.
I'm not sure how a closer doesn't look at first base, but he didn't, and Alexei took advantage of it. See it right here. He never looks at him. And Alexei just takes off.
The Lance Johnson jump. Yes. Alexei now being waved around. They got a shot with a good throw. And they get him.
We talked about the arm of Kiermaier, and he comes on aggressively and makes the play, cutting down Alexi at the plate. But on the play, Adam LaRoche moves into second base. Three changeups in a row, and this one out of the strike zone by plenty. Here comes Kiermaier. A short hop and a good play by Casale as he upends Alexi, who tried to go up and over. And he does go up, and he does go over. That's a tough ball to handle on a short hop. Alexi tries to leap over him, but can't avoid the tag.
Alexi did a great job in his landing right there, rolling with it.
Leury Garcia comes in with terrific speed, representing the tying run as he pinch runs for Adam LaRoche.
So here's Avi. Avi doubled and scored in the seventh. Fastball at 95, upper part of the zone. Avi has faced Boxberger one time. He's 0 for 1. Oh, and 2 the count.
He just threw 3 fastballs. First one taken, the next 2 he threw by him.
So 2 outs.
Carlos looked to be a hero in the 7th inning as he hit a 2-run homer, his 3rd of the year. And at the time, the Sox ahead 4-3. This one off Steve Geltz. And this no cheapie. Clutch home run. Only to see Tampa Bay retake the lead.
Change up. Way out in front.
Another changeup out of the zone.
Come on, Carlos. Good 2-strike hitter, buddy.
Tried to heat him upstairs, and Carlos able to foul it off on a check swing.
Outfield there short. And that one off the plate, high and wide. So one and 2 the count.
Come on, Carlos. Bring him home.
Leaving it up. Fastball at 93. Tyler on deck. That ball hit hard right at him. Son of a gun. And this ball game is over. They win it 5-4, and we'll be back.